Hello, and welcome to our exploration of the tools panel over here on the left-hand side. Um, a lot of these we're going to go into deeper later in the semester, so I'm just going to go through these pretty quickly. Again, it's nothing you have to memorize. It's in the PDFs, so you can look through the information there as well. But I just want to kind of give you an overview of what we have over here. All right. The first thing that I want to show you is that there's a couple ways to navigate through this. Up here we have these two little arrows, look like arrows, little double chevrons. You can click on them to change this into a single panel or have it be a double panel. Since I'm trying to fit as much as possible on here, and I just like to have them kind of all bunched up for myself. But you can, again, your preference for yourself, whichever one you prefer to be using. Um, On any of these, you can hover over them and they will tell you what the name of the tool is. It will also give you a little letter in parentheses. That letter is its shortcut key on the keyboard. So this is the direct selection tool that I'm hovering over here, and its shortcut was the A key. Some things do not have shortcuts. You'll see that if I hold down the direct selection tool, there is another tool underneath it called the group selection tool, and it has no shortcut. All right. The little arrows in the corners of each of these little shapes indicate that there are more tools underneath them than just whichever one is on top. All right. So clicking on holding on any of these will show you all the other ones that are beneath it. Okay. So I'm on my direct selection tool right now. You can tell it's a little white with the black line around it, cursor arrow. So if I click the V key, it'll switch me back to the selection tool, and if I click the A key, it'll switch me back to the direct selection tool. And pressing the A key again does nothing. I think in Photoshop, when you do it, it'll actually cycle you through some of your tools, but this one just sticks with the top one. All right. So, also, I mentioned in the PDF that there is an overview of these tools in the user manual on page 86 from Adobe. So you're welcome to also have it there. It'll label them all for you if you need that. All right. So I'm just going to run through these things and tell you what each of them are and what they kind of do. So the first one here is a selection tool. It selects items on your artboard. I have nothing on my artboard, so I'm going to draw a quick rectangle here so we have something to look at. And I'm going to give it a color so we have more to look at. There we go. So right now nothing is selected on my artboard. I use the selection tool, and I can select the whole thing. At this point I can move it around if I want to. I can grab the corners and reshape it, or hold down the shift key to resize it in scale. There's these little things in the corners here that allow me to drag and create curves out of my shape. So lots can be done grabbing with this tool. If I switch over to the direct selection tool, stay with your eyes on this as I switch over. It now has changed its little path. So, I guess I could zoom in for you guys. That would help, huh? So direct selection tool, selection tool has this bounding box. Direct selection tool does not. The little curves are still there, but we are now directly showing our anchor points. So this one allows you to directly select pieces of your artwork. So I can grab this little corner actually, path, and I can pull out on the path itself. I can move paths around. I can grab anchor points and move them around. I can select in the fill and move the entire thing if I want to as well, but it's just giving me some opportunities to play around with this shape that I have made. And this is something that you cannot do with the selection tool. All right. Underneath that, we have the group selection tool, which allows you to select things within groups. I don't have a group set up here, so we'll make another box and make this one, come on, gray. All right, and then I'm going to make a group out of it really quick. Edit, object, group. And now if I use my group selection tool, I can select pieces of my group. So if I use my my selection tool, sorry, I keep messing up the names, selection tool, it will select this entire group. They have been made to be together now. If I select with the group selection tool, I can just take a piece of the group and move that around while it's not destroying my group at all. All right. Um, I can do this with the direct selection tool as well. Be aware that I can just grab these pieces and continue to move them around, even though this is still, as a whole, a group. All right. Below that, we have the magic wand tool that allows you to select certain colors of items. Again, this is all stuff we're going to go over again later, so don't stress it too much. But if you had multiple red boxes, for example, I could use my magic wand and it would select all 3 of the red boxes while the gray box remains unselected. Next to that, we have a lasso tool that allows me to lasso portions of things. I don't know if you can see, but there's a blue highlighted anchor point here, and the rest of them are white, which means I just selected those 2 anchor points. That's all. Now I could go in here and actually move those 2 anchor points around with another tool. Beneath that, there's a little line right here. You guys probably can't see it in the video, but they kind of divide these up by what they think they do or areas that you might want to have interest with them, so that you can do tear-offs. Oops, this is going to tear off the whole thing. Can I do individual tear-offs? Maybe not. I thought I could. Doesn't seem to be doing it. We won't spend too much time on that then. If you do happen to tear this off and you've got it moved around and you say, what have I done? You can go up here to your window and go back to your workspace and reset essentials. Would that work? Yep. It popped everything back into place. All right. The next tool here is the pen tool. I'm going to delete everything by hitting the delete key on my keyboard. And the pen tool allows me to draw shapes. I have a fill on this, so the fill is showing with this. And I can make a closed shape. I can make an open shape. I can, oops, get off of that one. I can make curved shapes. I can make all sorts of shapes with this thing. All right. Beneath that, we have ways to add anchor points, delete anchor points, and change our anchor points. So just really quickly, I can add anchor points to this thing, which I can then grab and modify, right? Or I could delete them, or I can come in here and actually make a curved line into a straight line, or a straight line into a curved line, or a curved line into a straight line. If I click this again, it goes back to being straight. The curvature tool, I'm selecting all and hitting the delete key on my keyboard again, is similar to the pen tool. It just draws curves instead. It's always curves. So you can draw straight lines, but it's kind of the opposite. This one is meant to draw curves. So if you'd like to draw curvy shapes, there you go. Below that, we have the text tool. It used to be that when you typed here, it would give you just a blank blinking cursor like in Word, but now it gives you a little bit of text so you don't lose your text as much. This is point text. It can be resized by holding the Shift key evenly, or just resized like that by not holding down the Shift key. It can be converted to area type, which means that it stays within the box instead. Mostly when you're doing area type though, you make the shape first, and then you pick the area type tool to drop onto it, and then it puts a bunch of text in there. And you can make your box bigger and smaller, and the text does not move with it, whereas it would with the other one, with the point type. Type on a path. Let me back up here. Type on a path. Instead of filling an area, goes around the path of the area. So you can see the lorem ipsum has gone around the edge. Vertical type has it type go straight down like that. It can be a little bit difficult to read, but it is there. And then they have vertical area, vertical type on a path, and the touch type tool. Touch type tool is fun. Let me make this a little bit bigger here. And that you can take these things and modify individual letters. So, and they're still actually typed, so you can go back and change them after the fact to be different letters if you want them to be. Come on, little letter. There you go. Next we have the line tool. It draws lines. Pretty exciting. its default here apparently has no stroke on it, so I've actually drawn 3 lines here that you cannot see. If I select all here, you can see them, just the paths there, and I can try to pop a stroke onto them so you can see the lines. Underneath that, we have an arc tool, spiral tool, rectangle grid, and polar grid tool. So the arc draws an arc, the spiral, select all, delete, draws a spiral. And you can reshape these, but again, we're not going over that today. We'll do that in another lesson. Grid rectangular grid tool. Oops, tiny rectangular grid tool, and a polar grid tool, which looks like a spider web or a radar screen, depending on what you do with it. You've already seen me draw a rectangle. I can also draw a rounded rectangle. I can draw an ellipse, which can also be a circle if I want it to by holding down the Shift key. A polygon, like a stop sign, a star. And there's a thing here called the flare tool. It does not work really well on blank screens, so you're not going to see it too well, but there it is. Makes kind of a lens flare for your artwork when you're at a point where you want to have a lens flare on it. Select all and delete all of these. Let's close our properties back up. The next one here is the paintbrush tool. It draws paintbrushy lines. Again, this is just it has just a stroke that it's putting on there. So if you take the stroke off of it, it will be a nothing line. Below it is the blob brush tool, and this one draws blobs instead, and so it makes a fill on it. So whereas the anchor points were on the line of that one, they go around the edge of this one to make an odd shape. All right. Over here we have the shaper tool. This allows you to kind of tries to not be a very good drawer, and you can just kind of draw circles, and it will kind of guess what shape you're trying to draw and make it for you. And there are ways to connect these together, and all that kind of fun stuff. And we will go over that again in another lesson later on. The eraser tool. Oops, sorry. Underneath the shaper tool, we have the pencil tool, which draws just thin pencil lines. The smooth tool goes back and tries to smooth out lines if you might have drawn them in a jagged fashion. The path eraser tool lets you get rid of some of your path that you've drawn if you can hit it on the anchor points. The join tool allows you to join items that are open but not joined together. So I could have this one, and next to it I could have this other one. Neither one of them have a stroke on them again. Let's get those two. Give them the properties here. Give them a bigger line. I'm going to zoom in on them. And with the join tool, I can grab side of one and side of the other and join them together. With the eraser tool, ooh, has some options. I can erase things. Like I mentioned before, if you want to delete an object, just select the whole thing with the selection tool and delete it. The eraser is not really the way to go with deleting things because you can end up leaving little chunks. Beneath that, there are the scissors and the knife. Again, we're going to go over this in later lessons, but they give you little ways to cut things and move segments of your objects around by cutting pieces of them out. I'm not sure it'll work on this one since this is the well, it did it. It's a shaper tool thing, but and the knife also slices through things and cuts them for you sometimes if they're selected. Again, don't worry about this. We're going to go through it all in a later lesson. The next tools here are the rotate tool, which allows me to rotate an object, the reflect tool, which allows me to, can't really tell with a square, but it kind of bounces back the other side of, makes a copy of it. There we go, like that. It's now moved over there. The transform tool allows me to transform. Oops, it's transforming on this. I moved the center point, so it's transforming that. Let me delete the whole thing and give you another one. So now I can just transform this shape, size-wise, scale it. I can shear it if I want to, which puts it at an angle. And there's a reshape tool, which allows me to just grab pieces of things. And is it going to let me do it? Come on, little guy. Really does not like what I'm doing here. Perhaps I need a different structure. Reshape tool. Huh. It keeps telling me shape expanded. I'm worried that I've done something wrong in here. Why won't you reshape this? Anyway, should be able to move portions of the sides of it. I'm not sure what's going on there. I don't really want to waste your time because we're going to have a whole other lesson about that. So just realize that the tool is there, and we're going to move on to the next thing, which is the width tool. This allows you to change the width of a line like that. It's kind of fun, right? You can also just change one side by holding down the Alt key. Below that, we have warp, twirl, pucker, bloat, scallop. We're not going to go through a lot of these right now because these things can take up a lot of computer processing power. But just know that you can come in here and make. Oh, it did it to the top one there. This is to whatever one's selected. This one's the twirl tool, so it's actually twirling this around and making a crazy shape out of it. So you can make some really odd, fun shapes with these tools here. Oh, next to this is a puppet warp tool. This is a new tool. It's used to, it's just there, twist and distort things. So this is a new tool. We'll be going over this one later in the semester, definitely brand new. And you can do some really great things with your objects. So this is gonna be really fun when we get to this one. It actually has a tour in here for this, but again, we're going to skip it for now, and we will see it soon. All right. The free transform tool allows you to grab something and transform it into different perspectives. So you can give it different angles and things like that. Next here we have the shape builder tool. So don't delete. The shape builder tool allows you to, let me see if I can do this properly. Give some colors to these. All right. So I've got my shape builder tool, and you can see that it did nothing. I had one item selected there. What if I select a different one? Let's see. We're going to select this one and drag it around, and it does nothing. If I select two of them, I can drag pieces around and they can actually merge together. Again, can't affect things that are not selected. What about non-continuous things? So this blue one is way over here, not touching. It can change the color of it, but doesn't merge the shape together. All right. Beneath that, we've got a live paint bucket. That lets you paint things, and you can kind of manually, oops, go through them. It's not gonna let me bucket. Oh, I have to click to make a live paint group, and now it's allowing me to paint things different colors. It's still moving around. It's so weird. I'm having some glitches going on with my computer here. Anyway, you can usually toss through some of your, quickly move through some of your swatches. There we go. Now it's moving through the swatches on my artboard, so I can change color on my panels, so I can change colors quickly. Come on. And I move off of it. It doesn't like it. There we go. Ah, should have clicked while I had the chance. I made that one black. There we go. Let's click. Now I can make the edge pink. That's way more complicated than it should have been. I don't know what's going on there. So my apologies for my computer apparently being on the fritz a little bit. Ooh, perspective grid. I just turned it on accidentally. We need to zoom out. So your perspective grid looks like this, and when you are using it, you can actually draw shapes in perspective. So that's pretty fun. And we will do this a bit later in the semester. And I need to go over here to turn this off. View, perspective grid, hide grid. Select all, delete. Next we have the mesh tool. That one makes mesh shapes on things so that you can then go and add different colors in kind of a gradient fashion. Next to that, we have the gradient tool. So if you have a gradient, or you can apply a gradient to things. I don't have a gradient set up here, so nothing's happening. Uh, if you go to your Windows menu, gradients, you can pick one, linear, and now the tool is there, and I can actually modify how the gradient's going to look, etc. The next is the eyedropper tool. This allows you to grab colors from one thing to another. So let's do that, and then we'll do this one, and we'll change this one to red. So with my eyedropper tool, I can click one thing, and the selected item will change to that color. Or I can also grab a color, oops, and dump it onto the other thing. Ah, it only works if nothing is selected. Come on. Grab a color, dump a color. Nope, dump a color. Grab a color, dump a color. There we go. And underneath that we have a measure tool, which allows you to see how long something is. You can measure things. This is a blend tool. The blend tool is fun. It will blend two shapes together. Let's get rid of this. I'll pick a star shape here. So you can take your two shapes, and select them both, and use the blend tool to make them have multiple shapes in between them. The symbol sprayer tool allows you to spray symbols. You have to select a symbol from the symbol panel first. Let's see here. There's a symbol. So now I can spray these all around and make lots of little flowers everywhere. And then all the tools beneath them are ways to do things to the tools, like alter their colors. Do I have a color in here? I have selected. Red is selected. Oh, gray got selected. There we go. But see how it's changing the colors on them. Okay, and then we have the graphs tool, and this makes different graphs for you. I will just pick one and draw it. There's lots of graphs to do, and then you can put values in here. When you're done, you click check, and it will apply things to it for you. This is the artboard tool. We're going to get into this in the next video or so we don't have to worry about that one too much, but it allows you to actually go in and modify your artboards. Next to that, we have the slicer tool, and we're not going to really worry about slices either, but this is for breaking up your artwork into different pieces that you might want to upload to the web so that they don't have to all go up at the same time. The hand tool moves your artwork around, so if you have a star on here, I can use the hand to drag it around. Oops, come here, little guy. Oh, it's dragging around my whole artwork, not the artwork itself, the artboard. So you can see the artboard moving around so that I can get things into view. If I double click with the hand tool, it zooms in on my artboard. If I double click with the zoom tool, it gives my artboard a little bit more space on the board to 100%. So 100% might vary depending on what you've been doing. But you can also click to zoom in with the zoom tool. And any place you click, it will kind of angle towards that spot. Beneath that, we have the fill and the stroke that are currently applied. You can always reset them back to their default fill and stroke if you want to, which is black and white. And beneath that, we have, oh, and you can switch them between the stroke and the fill. You can switch them back and forth here. But below that, we have, it's showing what we're using here. We have a color or a gradient or none, and right now we are using a color, so it is highlighted there. Beneath that, we have draw normal, draw behind, and draw inside. Again, we'll get into those in more detail later, but draw normal means the next thing that I draw, come on, little guy, is going to be drawn on top of this star. Then if I do draw behind, the next thing, if I do draw behind, the next thing will be drawn behind the star. Oh, sorry, behind the last thing that I did, so it's behind the other gradient here. And then draw inside allows me to draw things inside of another object. So if I say draw inside, I can draw a star inside the box, and you'll only see part of it because it's cut off. little drawings there. These slice things are crazy, so let me turn them off in here somewhere. They're hide slices. Now they're gone. And beneath that, we have a thing that says change screen mode, F. If you're going to plug this one in or click on this one, make sure you remember that the F key is the one that switches it, right? Because it changes how things look between the different screen modes. If you get stuck, you should also be able to hit the escape key, and it should pop back to regular Illustrator. So that is a huge, quick, brief overview of the tool panel. The PDF gives you a little bit more information on what's inside of those, and again, we will be going over them in more detail throughout the semester, so please don't worry if you missed some of that. It is just an overview to get you an idea of what all these tools can possibly do for you. All right, that's all for now. We're going to be going over to the other side over here in the next video, so I will see you there when we talk about the dock and the other panels.